Hello and welcome into the RotoWire Esports Show. My name is Andrew Laird, joined as always by Ethan Sexton this time to talk about Monday's two-game LPL slate. Ethan, we finally got through like our 4-game slates. We're going back to 2 games, but I actually feel like this one on Monday is a little interesting. Like we have 2 matchups that are supposed to be pretty close, so like maybe we're not going to have a 97-way tie for first.
Yeah, it's like wishful thinking, I think. But, yeah, it could happen. I mean, these aren't the most lopsided of matchups we could get on a 2-game slate, so at least there's like options on where to go, and without, you could take underdogs without being completely insane, on this slate. So yeah, there's a few different ways to build, but I'm sure we'll have a lot of duplicates, which is just par for the course on these 2-game slates.
Yeah, I feel like, and maybe I'm just convincing myself of it in order to feel like it's a little more than a normal 2-game slate, but it feels like it might be like a one-off. You might be able to get away with it on DraftKings if these 2 series end up being close, or really you just need one to be close, and then just get the right team in the other game. But we've got OMG and E-Star, and then V5 and BLG. Like I said, like they're all like E-Star and V5 are technically the favorites, but no one's like overwhelming. Based on the odds, do you think they're right, or do you think there's an underdog that probably should be at least a closer to a favorite?
Yeah, I mean, I think in the OMG E-Star series, OMG have looked really bad through their first 2 series, so they kind of deserve to be a sizable, not that they're that big of an underdog, but a decently priced underdog. Whereas E-Star's coming off a 2-0 over Rogue Warriors. E-Star, still don't think they're a great team either necessarily, but they look like they've got a little more going for them than this OMG team. So I think that one is priced correctly. But looking at this BLG V5 series, I was a little surprised that BLG are priced as the underdog, just because I think I actually prefer this BLG roster to the V5 roster. And both teams are 1-1, but as we know, these books know what they're doing, so they must have had some reason for it. But I think myself, I really like BLG in this underdog spot, but I'm sure they're going to be fairly popular, on the slate, because probably a lot of people are thinking along the same lines as I am about them. So, yeah, I mean, there's a couple different ways you can go. If you want to differentiate, like you're saying, like a one-off is a good way to differentiate, but it's riskier, but it's less likely that a lot of other people are going to be doing it. And, same with a game stack, but again, I'm not too excited about game stack in either one of these series, but who knows? I mean, these are 4 of the 4 teams that are probably all going to end up being outside of playoff range, most likely, I would think. So anything could happen, really. Like, it's just going to be one of those slates. But it almost feels like every slate has been one of those slates so far. So
the beauty of League of Legends DFS is that every slate feels like it's crazy. I tried a game stack today, actually, sort of, or mostly. Yeah, I did a WE IG game stack with a Damwon team. Didn't work.
No. Yeah, of course. Well, we spent all that time yesterday. Or I spent all that time yesterday saying how I didn't like that Afrika Brion series, and then but I do think I said that that'll be the highest. Whoever wins would be the highest scoring team, because I don't like it, and Afrika did end up being the highest scoring team, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, I didn't play any of that series, but we're past today. We're on to tomorrow. So yeah, I mean, looking at these matchups, I think I just like BLG as a dog tomorrow, and like I said, I expect them to be fairly popular. V5 are all right, and they've got a couple decent players, but I still think, like, Y4 is like a lackluster AD carry. I think he's back in starting, I believe, for tomorrow, after sitting out the first game and then coming in their last series. So he's in, I think PP got still a really good support, but the rest of the team is just like kind of par for the course, and I think for BLG, I think that Aiming and Mark could potentially take over this series from the bottom lane. I think Aiming is a way better AD carry than Y4. I think Meteor and Zika are completely fine as players and can hold up with Weiwei and Mole. And then, Bubi is just kind of a weak spot, but is Lang Ji the guy that's going to take over from the top lane? I'm not sure. So I kind of like BLG as an underdog, and then in the other series I got to lean E-Star, I think, as the slight favorite. OMG don't look good at all right now, and their rookies really haven't meshed in the first two series, and they're not like the highest impact rookies coming into the league this year either. Most of them, I think most of them came off bottom half of LDL development teams from last year, so I'm not too excited about this OMG lineup, even though I kind of like Eric, in the bottom lane. So probably you're going to see the highest owned combination be E-Star BLG, but unfortunately, it's kind of the way I feel about tomorrow as well, that those teams are the ones that are likely to win their series.
Yeah, you can pretty easily fit in everybody. I think the only one I was having a little difficulty with was V5 and E-Star. Or no, that wasn't even that one. Maybe it was the other way. Maybe it was the E-Star was the long part of the stack. But I had this thought. So when I saw the matchups, I definitely thought BLG would be favored. So it was a little weird to me not to see that. I mean, I'm no expert, so obviously there's got to be something up. But they just seem to look pretty good in their last series. The E-Star thing jumped out at me because we talked about this earlier in their whenever they last played, when Top Esports was on the slate also, and I was like, oh, do I captain Rat or Jackie Love? And I'm like, obviously I captain Jackie Love, and Rat crushed. So now I'm like, well, I got to make up for it now by captaining Rat and just making sure I don't miss out again. But
right.
I mean, you have to assume that because if V5 are favorites, but we think BLG could win, I guess OMG is like the top leverage spot on the slate, just because as the biggest underdog on a four team slate, you're not going to have a lot of leverage opportunities, but theoretically that's it.
Right. Yeah. I think just the combination of them being 0-2 and also looking pretty bad in their two series so far, they're probably the team that people are least excited about putting in the rosters. But a double underdog lineup tomorrow probably goes fairly low owned. And anything with OMG probably goes fairly low owned. Yeah, I agree with you that they're probably the team that's the lowest owned on tomorrow's slate. And, if we're going just based off gameplay, then I would say rightfully so. But, on a 4-game slate, you kind of, you got to get a little weird sometimes. And, with only 4 teams going, if you want to take first, sometimes you got to take some chances. And OMG are probably the team to take some chances on, even though I'm not too optimistic that they're gonna win. But I mean, as we've seen all season so far, it's upsets aren't afraid to happen. So it certainly could be something that happens tomorrow, and I think they probably are the lowest owned team on the slate. I would imagine so.
So like it's like weird because even if you want to try to differentiate like with the favorites, like it just seems like you're putting yourself in a negative point of like, no, I'm not going to captain an AD carry. So like you can try to differentiate with like Irma or something like that, but like and maybe it works, but like it seems like you're differentiating for the point of differentiating instead of like actually getting enough fantasy points out of it.
Right.
I don't know, but does it seem like a double mid is like the first place to try to go differently?
Yeah, but I think that probably ends up being popular too, especially if people are looking to jam in both favorites, because it's a way to make sure you can do it. I think that ends up being fairly popular as well. I think people just need to decide, do you want to cash and just try to make a profit, or do you want to just go for like a first place or last place type scenario and then build your lineups from there? Because unfortunately on these 4-game slates, 2-game slates, there's just not as many places to go, obviously, and that's why we see duplication a lot on 4-game slates as well. Yeah. So we're going to see, way more duplication on these 2-gamers all season, especially, one like this is maybe not as bad as when we have 2 ginormous favorites, but even tomorrow it feels like there's going to be a lot of duplicate lineups. So I think people just kind of got to decide, do I want to just kind of go with the flow and make the the lineup that I think is going to do the best and potentially split, cash with a bunch of people, but I'll still make a profit? Or do I want to go for the boom or bust and take a shot on one or both underdogs and try to get first place if it hits, or run the risk of coming in dead last? But just basically whatever you want to do tomorrow and then figure out the way you want to go from there.
Yeah, I'd say if you're somebody who plays first and last and you don't have an OMG lineup, you just got to give up. Just skip the slate, because that's where you're going to get it.
Yep, the 4-man OMG stack is definitely the boom or bust way to go tomorrow, I think. So.
For sure.
But yeah, it's not. I mean, not a bad way to go on these 2-game slates, just because if it hits, and you're getting way ahead of at least a large chunk of the field. So you might make a significant amount more money if it does hit. It's just not as likely to hit, of course, as these couple other teams winning. So
yeah, the bummer with them is that we saw, I guess it was a week ago, that when Suning took down Top, and Suning was the biggest underdog on that 2-game slate, but it was we know that they're good, whereas with OMG, I think we know they're not that good, and so
the scary thing about OMG is E-Star has a couple rookies in their lineup as well, but Z's their top laner. He's coming from the LDL champions last split, whereas AKI or Aki and Bright and Bafang aren't starting, but they were on the team that took 20th, and then Aki, the jungler, he was on the team that took 10th. So they're not even coming from the best teams in the second division, which gives you some pause as to their prospect status. And then OMG just haven't looked very good so far this split. So I find it unlikely that they're going to win, but I'm still not that high on E-Star either. And even though Hacker was really good the other day, I still don't think he's that great. So it could happen. I mean, it's not the craziest thing in the world. We've seen bigger upsets already, so it definitely is something that could happen.
Cool. That's all we got for 2 games. So if you guys, if you've enjoyed this video, if you could just hit the like button below, feel free to subscribe to the RotoWire channel on YouTube, and you can hit that bell for any notifications for all of our new videos. If you want to try out RotoWire for free for 10 days, just go to rotowire.com/pod. That's POD. Gets access to all of our DFS League of Legends tools and pages, as well as our subscriber Discord, which is open for anybody that's a member of RotoWire. So, Ethan, thank you for that, and good luck on Monday.
All right, same to you, man.